All right, so you know how every year they pick like a word of the year?
Right.
Like the dictionary is giving out awards?
Indeed, indeed.
It's always interesting to see what they pick.
Yeah,
This year, Collins Dictionary picked brat.
they did.
So I got to say, when I first saw that, I was like, huh, brat? Really? I
Yeah.
mean, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Charli XCX's album, really brought that word back.
It did.
But it's not just about the music scene, though, is it?
No, it's much bigger than that.
Yeah.
Collins Dictionary, they analyzed this massive 20 billion word database.
Wow.
And brat was top of the list this year.
Huh.
So these words, they really act as like cultural seismographs.
Okay.
They pick up on, the tremors and the shifts happening in society.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dig into brat then. It's
Yeah.
gone from like a playground insult
Right.
to something much more
nuanced.
nuanced. Yeah.
Yeah.
Collins defines it as reflecting a confident, independent, and hedonistic attitude. And they even called brat summer an aesthetic and a way of life.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's gone from negative to something
Positive.
positive. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a reclaiming of the term.
Yeah.
And I think when we connect this to the bigger picture, this suggests like a rebellion
Okay.
against older, perhaps more restrictive norms.
Interesting.
Think about it. We're seeing this shift,
Yeah.
particularly with Gen Z and Alpha, towards greater self-expression
Wow.
and a rejection of traditional expectations.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So like brat is now shorthand for like just embracing your individuality.
Right.
Even if it ruffles a few feathers along the way.
Exactly, yeah.
Have you noticed this shift at all?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I've seen it in my own life, just how people
Yeah.
present themselves.
How they present themselves online.
Online especially, yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's a boldness.
Yes.
A willingness to break free from like those old good girl or nice guy molds. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because this isn't just a Western phenomenon.
Right.
Collins noted that brat resonated with people globally.
Yes, across cultures.
So it's a global reach.
Yeah,
I think that's really telling.
I agree.
It suggests that this desire for self-determination
Yeah.
and a more liberated approach to identity
Uh-huh.
is like this wave sweeping across many cultures.
Totally.
Okay, so moving on to the next finalist, we've got era,
Oh, yeah.
which is probably riding high on the coattails of Taylor Swift's Eras tour.
Yes, era. It's a good one.
It is.
It seems to capture our current obsession with categorizing
Uh-huh.
and celebrating distinct periods.
Okay.
Not just in history, but also in our own lives.
Also true. It's like everyone on social media
Yes.
is curating like these highlight reels of their lives,
Right.
each with its own aesthetic and vibe.
Exactly.
The Instagram feed's meticulously crafted
Oh, yeah.
to showcase our indie sleaze era
Yes.
or like cottagecore phase.
Yeah, exactly. And this links to some interesting trends.
Oh yeah, like what?
Nostalgia, of course,
Okay.
plays a big role.
Sure.
I mean, we love to reminisce about past eras.
Totally.
But it also connects to, I think, the rise of personal branding.
Okay.
We carefully select and present different chapters of our lives,
Huh.
almost like building a personal mythology.
It makes you wonder though,
Yeah.
does all this era framing make us more likely to like box ourselves in? Or does it give us more agency in shaping how we're perceived?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's one worth pondering for sure.
It is.
And it's interesting because this next finalist
Okay.
offers a completely different perspective on
Yes.
how we experience the world.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
This one is anti-tourism.
Okay, so anti-tourism,
Mhm.
it's definitely a buzzword lately,
Yeah.
highlighting a growing discomfort with the negative impacts of mass travel.
Uh-huh.
We're seeing more and more awareness of things like environmental damage, cultural commodification,
Yeah.
and the strain on local communities.
It's a fascinating evolution.
It is.
People are starting to question the old must-see travel mentality.
Well, I think so.
It's not just about, ticking off destinations on a bucket list anymore. There's a
Right.
growing desire for more meaningful travel,
Okay.
more sustainable travel,
Hmm.
and just more responsible ways of exploring the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes me think about a trip I took recently
Oh, yeah.
where I specifically sought out locally owned businesses
Okay.
and really tried to engage with the culture
Uh-huh.
in a way that felt respectful and authentic.
Yeah.
It was a totally different experience
I bet.
compared to like the typical tourist trap.
That's what anti-tourism is all about.
Yeah,
Being conscious of the impact we have, both on the environment and the communities we visit.
absolutely.
It's about seeking out experiences
Yeah.
that enrich both ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and the places we explore.
I like that. Okay, now for a word that I think really captures like the absurdity of the internet,
Right.
delulu.
Yes. Short for delusional, of course. Delulu is such a perfect example of how language adapts
Yeah.
to reflect like the anxieties of our time.
Mm-hmm.
It perfectly encapsulates the way we grapple with misinformation
Okay.
and just unrealistic expectations online.
Oh, tell me about it. Just the other day,
Yeah.
I saw this influencer promoting like a miracle elixir
Oh, no.
that supposedly makes you fluent in like 5 languages overnight.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, come on.
Really?
That's peak Delulu.
That's a great example.
Right?
And while it's easy to laugh at those instances,
Yeah.
Delulu, I think, speaks to a deeper concern.
Okay.
The internet, with its, endless stream of content,
Yeah.
has blurred the lines between reality and fantasy.
It really has.
We're constantly bombarded with information,
Yeah.
and it's becoming increasingly difficult to discern fact from fiction.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
It's a constant reminder.
That we need to be vigilant
Yes.
to cultivate our critical thinking skills.
Absolutely.
And not just believe everything we see on our screens.
Right.
It's tough, though.
It is. It's a challenge for sure.
It is.
Yeah.
And speaking of screens,
Okay.
our next word, raw dogging,
Right.
takes us in a completely different direction.
Okay.
A yearning to escape the digital world altogether.
Interesting.
So raw dogging, it sounds a bit extreme.
It does, yeah.
But essentially means flying long haul without any devices.
No.
No phones, no laptops, no distractions.
Why nothing?
It's like the ultimate digital detox.
Exactly. And it speaks to a growing awareness of digital overload
Right.
and the need to disconnect.
Yeah.
People are seeking out those moments of quiet,
Okay.
those opportunities to simply be present without the constant buzzing and notifications.
I can definitely see the appeal.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just crave that feeling of being unplugged.
Right.
Of being fully immersed in my surroundings. Yeah.
Without the temptation to scroll through social media or check emails.
It's a fascinating counter movement
It is.
to our hyper-connected lives.
Yeah.
It suggests that despite the convenience and allure of technology, we still crave those moments of disconnection, of being fully present in the real world.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So we've covered brat era, anti-tourism, delulu, and raw dogging.
We've covered a lot.
Quite a few.
Yes.
Each word giving us a little glimpse into a window into a different facet of our current cultural landscape.
I like that, yeah.
But we're not done yet.
There's more.
We've got a few more fascinating words to unpack
Oh, good.
before we wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Okay, I'm excited.
So stay tuned.
All right. It's fascinating how these seemingly simple words can act like cultural barometers.
That's true.
Don't you think? They
Yeah.
give us this reading, of the pressures,
Uh.
the desires, and shifts happening within society.
It's true. And as we've seen, those readings can sometimes be contradictory,
Right.
reflecting like the complexities of our current moment.
Exactly.
Okay.
Take brat and brain rot, for example.
Okay.
On the one hand, we have this embrace of individuality and self-expression. And on the other hand, there's this anxiety about mental decline.
Right.
And the potential downsides of our digital lives. It's like we're simultaneously craving freedom
Okay.
and fearing its consequences.
That's a fascinating tension. And it makes me wonder, are we becoming more self-aware as a society? More conscious of the potential pitfalls of our choices, even as we strive for greater autonomy and self-expression?
That's a great question. And it speaks to the idea that cultural evolution isn't linear.
Okay.
It's messy.
Yeah.
It's full of contradictions. And it's constantly being shaped by a multitude of factors.
All right. Let's circle back to delulu for a moment.
Okay.
I've been thinking about how it's often used in a lighthearted way, but it also hints at a deeper societal concern.
Absolutely. On the surface, it's a way to dismiss someone's outlandish beliefs or
Right.
expectations.
Yeah.
But when we connect this to the bigger picture, it speaks to a growing concern about our ability to navigate a world just saturated with information,
Okay.
much of which is deliberately designed to mislead or manipulate.
It's like we're living in an era of information overload,
Yes.
but we're lacking the tools
Mm.
to effectively filter and assess the information
Right.
we're constantly bombarded with.
We are.
It's no wonder people are feeling delulu at times.
Precisely. And this leads us to a question that's becoming increasingly urgent.
Okay, what's that?
How do we cultivate critical thinking skills
Right.
and media literacy
Uh-huh.
in a world where truth itself seems to be up for grabs?
It's a challenge, for sure.
It is.
And it's something we all need to be actively engaging with, both
Yeah.
individually and as a society.
I agree. Now let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about looks maxing. This word, while seemingly focused on superficiality, actually reveals some interesting anxieties about social pressures
Okay.
and the pursuit of validation, particularly in the digital age.
Right. It's more than just wanting to look your best.
Right.
It's about going to extreme lengths
Mm-hmm.
to achieve a certain aesthetic ideal,
Mm-hmm.
often fueled by social media comparisons
Yes.
and the pressure to conform
Yes.
to increasingly narrow beauty standards.
Exactly. And it raises important questions about the impact of this visual culture on our self-esteem and mental well-being.
Yeah, for sure.
Are we becoming more critical of our own appearances?
I think so.
More likely to compare ourselves to others and feel inadequate?
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate concern,
Yeah.
especially for younger generations
Yeah.
who are growing up immersed in this hypervisual, digitally driven world.
Absolutely. It highlights the need for greater awareness of the potential pitfalls of social media,
Okay.
the importance of promoting body positivity, and the value of cultivating a sense of self-worth that's not solely based on external validation.
Okay. So we've delved into the bratty side of things,
We have.
explored the anxieties of the digital age,
Mhm.
and even touched on the pressures of looks maxing.
Yeah.
But let's not forget about the other words on our list,
Right.
each of which offers a unique perspective on the cultural landscape of 2024.
Absolutely. Era, for instance,
Yeah.
points to our ongoing fascination with nostalgia and the way we categorize and compartmentalize different periods of our lives,
Okay.
almost as a way of creating a sense of order and meaning in a world that can feel chaotic.
That's interesting, this
Yeah.
tendency to look back and romanticize the past,
Mm-hmm.
even as we're hurtling towards an uncertain future.
Right.
I wonder if it's a way of seeking comfort or connection in a
Mhm.
world that's rapidly changing.
It's certainly a possibility. And speaking of seeking comfort and connection,
Okay.
let's talk about romantasy.
All right.
It's a genre that's exploded in popularity recently,
It has.
and it seems to tap into a desire for both escapism and empowerment.
Yeah, I can definitely see the appeal.
Yeah.
It's a genre that often features strong, independent female characters
Uh-huh.
who challenge traditional gender roles and
Yeah.
societal expectations.
Right.
Plus, who doesn't love a good dose of magic and adventure?
Exactly. And it's fascinating how these themes of female empowerment
Yeah.
and challenging the status quo
Yeah.
align with the spirit of brat that we discussed earlier.
Oh, that's interesting.
Perhaps it's a sign that these ideas are resonating more deeply,
Okay.
finding expression in various aspects of our culture, from
Okay.
music to literature.
It's like we're witnessing a shift in the collective consciousness.
Yeah.
A growing appetite for stories that challenge traditional power structures
Right.
and celebrate individuality and agency.
Yeah. Let's move on to anti-tourism,
Okay.
which reflects a growing awareness
Nice.
of the ethical and environmental implications of our travel choices.
It's a movement that's gaining momentum
It is.
as people become more conscious of the impact their travel has
Mm-hmm.
on both the environment and the communities they visit.
Right.
It's not just about seeing the sights anymore. It's about engaging with the world in a way that's respectful,
Mm-hmm.
sustainable,
Yes.
and mutually beneficial.
It's about recognizing that we're not just passive observers,
Okay.
but active participants in shaping the world around us.
Uh-huh.
And that includes the way we travel.
That's a good point.
And this brings us to raw dogging,
All right.
which might seem like an odd word to include in this discussion,
Yeah.
but it actually speaks to a similar desire for a more authentic and mindful way of experiencing the world.
Right. Raw dogging is all about disconnecting from the digital world
Yes.
and embracing the present moment.
Exactly.
It's about being fully immersed in your surroundings
Yeah.
without the distractions of technology,
Right.
even if it means enduring a long-haul flight without the usual entertainment.
It's a deliberate choice to step away from the constant stimulation and noise of the digital realm And to reconnect with ourselves and the world around us, it's about seeking out those moments of quiet contemplation, of simply being present in the moment.
Okay, so we've covered era, romanticy, anti-tourism, and raw dogging.
We have.
Now we're left with two words
All right.
that at first glance might seem a bit negative.
Okay.
Brain rot and yapping.
But even these words, with their seemingly critical connotations, offer valuable insights into contemporary concerns and social dynamics.
So let's start with brain rot.
Okay.
It sounds a bit harsh.
Yeah.
But what does it really mean?
Yeah.
And why is it resonating with people?
Brain rot refers to this perceived deterioration of mental capacity or focus,
Okay.
often attributed to excessive screen time, social media consumption, or the overwhelming influx of information in the digital age.
Yeah.
It speaks to a fear of losing our ability to think critically, to engage in deep thought, and to maintain focus in a world that's designed to constantly grab our attention.
It's a valid concern.
It is.
It makes me think about the importance of being intentional, about our media consumption,
Right.
of carving out time for activities that promote mental well-being
Yes.
and of cultivating habits
Yeah.
that support critical thinking and deep focus.
Absolutely. And now let's talk about yapping,
Okay.
which, while perhaps less serious than brain rot, still points to a frustration with certain social behaviors.
Okay, so what exactly does yapping refer to?
Yeah.
And why is it making it onto Colin's list of notable words?
Yapping describes excessive and often annoying talking or complaining.
Okay.
It's used to express irritation with individuals who dominate conversations,
Right.
interrupt frequently, or dwell on negative topics.
We all know those people.
Yeah, we do.
But I wonder if there's something deeper at play here. Could it be that we're becoming more attuned to the energy of our interactions,
Okay.
more aware of the impact our words have on others?
It's an interesting perspective. Perhaps yapping isn't just about the volume of someone's voice, but also about the quality of their communication.
Right.
Are they truly listening and engaging? Or are they simply broadcasting their own thoughts and opinions without consideration for the other person?
That's a great point. Maybe it's a sign that we're craving more authenticity and depth in our conversations.
Possibly.
A shift away from superficial chatter towards more meaningful exchanges.
It's certainly a possibility worth considering. And it brings us to our final word on this list,
Okay.
supermajority,
Right?
which, while not directly related to communication styles, does touch on the importance of consensus and collective decision-making.
Right. Supermajority refers to a voting majority.
Yeah.
That's greater than a simple majority,
Right.
often requiring a 2/3 or 3/4 vote.
Exactly.
It suggests a move towards greater consensus and collaboration in decision-making processes, perhaps reflecting a growing awareness of the limitations of simple majority rule,
Okay.
especially in addressing complex societal challenges.
Yeah, exactly. It speaks to a desire for broader agreement and a recognition that inclusivity and diverse perspectives are crucial for effective governance.
It's a fascinating concept, especially in a world that's becoming increasingly polarized.
It is.
I wonder if supermajority points to a growing desire for unity and a recognition that we're all interconnected, regardless of our differences.
It's certainly a hopeful interpretation, and perhaps it's a sign that despite the challenges we face, we're still striving to find ways to bridge divides and create a more just and equitable world for all.
So we've come full circle, from brat to supermajority,
We have.
exploring a spectrum of words that reflect the anxieties, aspirations, and evolving social norms of our time.
It's been quite a journey, and as we move into the final part of our deep dive, I think it's worth reflecting on what these words as a collective tell us about the direction we're heading in as a society.
What does this snapshot of language reveal about our values,
Mm-hmm.
our fears, and our hopes for the future? Wow, we've explored a fascinating collection of words,
We have.
each one like a tiny window into these massive cultural shifts happening all around us.
It's like we've been piecing together this giant puzzle with each word revealing a different part of the bigger picture.
I like that analogy.
Yeah. And what I think is striking is how these words, while seemingly diverse, actually connect to some common threads
Okay.
running through our collective consciousness.
Absolutely. We've seen this push and pull between individuality and connection,
Yeah.
between embracing technology and craving disconnection,
Right.
between celebrating progress and grappling with its unintended consequences.
And all of this is playing out against this backdrop
Yeah.
of, rapid social change,
Yeah.
technological advancements, and a growing awareness of just the interconnectedness of our world.
It's a lot to process.
It is.
But that's what makes this whole word of the year thing so fascinating.
It is.
It's not just about identifying like trendy terms.
Right.
It's about understanding the deeper cultural currents, shaping our language and ultimately, again, shaping who we are.
Precisely. Language acts as this mirror, reflecting our collective hopes and fears and values.
Right.
And by examining the words that rise to prominence, we gain insights into the forces that are shaping our world and the direction we're heading in as a society.
So as we reach the end of our deep dive,
Yeah.
let's revisit that final question.
Okay.
If these words are a reflection of who we are and the world we're creating, what does that say about our future?
That's a great question. And I think the answer lies in recognizing the tension between the various trends these words represent. On one hand, we have this bratty energy, the celebration of individuality, a willingness to challenge norms, and a desire to break free from traditional constraints.
I love that. It suggests a future where authenticity and self-expression are valued, where people feel empowered to embrace their unique identities without fear of judgment or conformity.
Right.
A future where diversity is celebrated.
Yeah.
And difference is seen as a strength.
Precisely. But alongside this drive for individual liberation, we also see this recognition of the challenges we face. As a global society, words like anti-tourism and brain rot point to a growing awareness of the need for greater responsibility, sustainability, and critical thinking. In a world that's increasingly interconnected and complex.
It's like we're starting to realize that our individual choices have ripple effects.
Yes.
And that we need to be more mindful of the impact we're having on the world around us.
Exactly. And perhaps this awareness will lead to a future where collaboration and collective action are prioritized, where we move beyond like narrow self-interest and towards a greater understanding of our shared humanity, where we recognize that the well-being of the planet and its people is inextricably linked to our own.
It's a hopeful vision.
It is.
And one that's reflected in the word supermajority, which suggests a move towards consensus building and a recognition that we're stronger when we work together.
And let's not forget the power of imagination and storytelling. As embodied in the word romantasy, perhaps the future we're building is one where we allow ourselves to dream bigger, to envision new possibilities, and to create narratives that inspire and empower us to create a more just and equitable world.
It's a future I'd be excited to be a part of.
Me too.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, dear listener, with a final thought. Pay attention to the words you use, the words you hear, and the stories they tell.
Yes.
Because within those words lies the power to shape our perceptions, to influence our actions, and to create the future we want to see.
Remember, language is a living, breathing thing.
It is.
It evolves with us, reflecting our changing values, our hopes, and our fears. By engaging with language thoughtfully and critically, we can become active participants in shaping the narrative of our time.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those words flowing.